I'm going to read through some of the prayers of the offertory in this video. The first offertory prayer, the Suscipe sancte pater, I'd only like to point out, because the prayer is self-explanatory, even in the Latin, I'd like to point out, though, that the usual translation given for hanc immaculatam hostiam in the first line is this immaculate host. Hostiam, well, that is the translation if you understand that host is another English word for victim. A sacrificial host, a sacrificial victim. But unfortunately, most people think host is a little tiny piece of unleavened bread. No, we don't offer God bread. We offer Him the immaculate victim, Jesus Christ. There is no such thing as an immaculate piece of bread. So hostiam, and that's translated in all the hand missals. I don't know who wrote that, but that's a very significant point, I think. So keep that in mind. Suscipe sancte pater, omnipotens aeterne Deus, hanc immaculatam hostiam. Quam ego indignus famulus tuus offero tibi Deo meo vivo et vero, pro innumerabilibus peccatis et offensionibus et negligentis meis, et pro omnibus circumstantibus, sed et pro omnibus fidelibus Christianis vivis atque defunctis, ut mihi et illis proficiat ad salutem in vitam aeternam. Amen. The second prayer of the offertory that I'd like to do is the in spiritu humilitatis, which is one of the, I think it encapsulates the approach that a Catholic should take to the holy sacrifice of the Mass. And it should be pointed out that a priest has to say all of these prayers. And he usually says these prayers beginning with the offertory in a low tone, so the congregation does not hear him. So these are usually said, the priest whispers these prayers. We're saying them out loud here, or I am, so that we can learn them just in a visceral sort of way by speaking them and dissecting them, learn ourselves to unite our minds with the prayers of the priest, as we're instructed to do. And as lay people, we don't have to pray all of these prayers. We can pick one, meditate on it, and that would be our prayer for the Mass. That's actually an advantage in a way if you think about it. This, I believe, is one of those prayers in a sense that it's so short, but it says so much because it is sort of indicative of the whole spirit, the humble spirit and contrite soul that is required, a spirit of humility, a contrite soul, asking that we be taken into the memory of the Lord. In spiritu humilitatis et in animo contrito suscipiam Orate Domine, et sic fiat sacrificium nostrum in conspecto tuo hodie, ut placeat tibi, Domine Deus. Veni sanctificator omnipotens aeterne Deus, et benedic hoc sacrificium tuo sancto nomini preparatum. The Suscipe Sancta Trinitas is the last prayer of the offertory, leading up, then there are some transition prayers, which I'll get to, but this prayer again is said silently by the priest. And it's one of the two, I guess there's some symmetry to this because the offertory concludes with this prayer and the Mass concludes with a prayer, the final prayer, just after the Ite Missa Est, with another prayer to the Holy Trinity. Suscipe sancta trinitas hanc oblationem, quam tibi offerrimus ob memoriam passionis, resurrectionis et ascensionis Iesu Christi Domini nostri, et in honorem Beate Mariae semper Virginis et Beate Ioannis Baptiste et sanctorum apostolorum Petri et Pauli et istorum et omnium sanctorum, ut illis proficiat ad honorem nobis autem ad salutem, et illi pro nobis intercedere dinientur in celis, quorum memoriam agimus in terris, per iundem Christum Dominum nostrum. Amen. The Orate fratres is what the priest says as he turns around to the congregation. He says the two words Orate fratres out loud. Then he either responds, if he's saying the Mass by himself, with the Suscipiat Dominus, or that's where the server responds. And it's interesting that he's praying that our sacrifice be acceptable before God, and then the server responds, may the Lord receive the sacrifice. In other words, the server is saying, make sure you do what you're supposed to do. You know, okay, we'll do our sacrifice, but make sure you pray these prayers. You do all the rubrics the way the church wants you to do it. And so that we have a valid Mass and a worthy Mass. So the server response here is not frivolous. I mean, it's a very important response. Orate fratres, ut meum ac vestrum sacrificium acceptabile fiat apud Deum Patrum omnipotentem. Suscipiat Dominus sacrificium de manibus tuis ad laudem et gloriam nomini sui, ad utilitatem quoque nostrum totiusque ecclesiae sue sancte. Amen. And now we move into the Sursum corda responses and the preface. These are said out loud, and the preface in a high Mass would be sung. Well, all of this would be sung by the priest in the congregation, and the preface would be sung by the priest. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Amen. Dominus vobiscum, et cum spiritu tuo, sursum corda, habemus ad Dominum. Gratias agamo Domino Deo nostro, dignum et justum est. Verre dignum et justum est ecum ut salutare. Nos tibi semper et ubique gratias agere, Domine sancte, Pater omnipotens aeterne Deus, qui cum unigenito Filio tuo et Spiritus Sancto, unus es Deus, unus es Dominus, non in unius singularitate personae, sed in unius Trinitatis substantiae, quod enim de tua gloria revelante te credimus, hoc te Filio tuo, hoc te Spiritus Sancto, sine differentia discretionis sentimus, ut in confessione veri sempiterneque deitatis, et in personis proprietas, et in essentia unitas, et in majestate adoretur equalitas, quam laudant angeli aquae arcangeli cherubim quoque ac seraphim, qui non cessant clamare quotidie una voce dicentes. Sanctus, 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 Dominus Deus Sabaoth, plenis in celi et terra gloria tua, Hosanna in excelsis, benedictus qui venit in nomine Domini, Hosanna in excelsis.